Oh, we love Dino. He's been down from the beginning. Like, he's believed in the project, and we're very humbled by him and all the fans that just stuck around, because everybody really was waiting for this, and now it's here, and we're seeing all the posts like, oh, this is my favorite song. Yeah. So it's exciting.
Any features on the mixtape?
Yes.
Well,
who's beatboxing?
We have
beatboxing.
Oh.
The mixtape was actually produced by D. Bryant, who is a wonderful producer. He's worked with a lot of different
D.
people.
Brown?
D. Bryant.
D. Brown, okay.
Mm-hmm. And he had this wonderful idea to have someone beatbox in one of the songs, and we were like, who can we get other than
Dougie Fresh.
Tyra B?
Yeah, Dougie Fresh, right? Tyra B just happened to be in the studio, and she's beatboxing, and that's one of the favorite records, fan favorites so far.
And he's also doing some backgrounds on that, but other than the two of them, there's no.
It's just all bliss.
Okay. Is there anyone you want to work with? Is there other artists and/or producers?
Timbaland, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Missy. I'm keeping it up top. Okay, we can appreciate this.
Pharrell, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of surreal for me because probably around this time, 10, 11, 12 years ago, I had Beyonce, Kelly, and Michelle in New York interviewing them. So it's real surreal for me, seeing and watching you guys, and so I hope I don't have to wait 10 years to. I might be telling the story. I'm trying to get Tyra B again one day. It's gonna happen. I know she's somewhere around listening. But any ladies married?
No.
All single?
Single.
Married to the music, baby.
Oh, no, I'm not married.
Okay, I was gonna say, what was the question? No, nobody's married. We're not married.
Yeah, nobody's married.
Okay.
So technically, we are all single.
Okay. No rings on it, then that's it.
Rings.
Is it anything you guys want to do in addition to music, for example, film or television, anything like that?
Definitely.
Expand the whole thing. Definitely.
A lipstick.
Mm-hmm. We have perfume fragrances coming out.
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about that. Can you talk about it?
Yeah. Well, we don't have it the exact specifics about it, but we do have a fragrance being made in the UK right now.
We're just working on different
smells
and names and
stuff
stuff like that.
It's funny you say the UK. With the International Music Conference coming up next month. And I heard a rumor that you guys will be performing there, so.
I heard that rumor too.
Yeah. That's our second home right there.
99% chance that we will be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, when you say UK, what are some of the venues?
I'm Lex.
And I'm Mieko.
And together we are Bliss.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Sprinkle.
Good afternoon.
I think we were at a point where you were about to testify, I believe, obviously, tell me I'm wrong, that at 7:59 p.m., according to the phone records, Aisha Williams' associated phone, who may be Mr. Garlington's phone, handset that he had, connected to Mr. McMullen or Nard. And just if I'm wrong, I didn't mean to be wrong, just correct it.
Yes. So I see that actually there's a call at 7:53 p.m.
And just to make sure we're oriented, this is all Eastern Standard Time, and we're talking about January 10th, 2015.
Yes,
Right.
Eastern Standard Time, January 10, 2015. So I see a call from the handset associated with Demise McMullen to the handset associated with a subscriber named Naisha Williams at 7:53 p.m. I then see that at 7:59 p.m., and I believe that's where we left off, that the handset associated with Naisha Williams calls the handset associated with Demise McMullen. And again, that's at 7:59. And then I don't see another call between those two handsets, at least of the variant that would appear in phone records, until 11:01, when Naisha Williams, or when looks like the handset associated with Demise McMullen calls Naisha Williams, the handset.
Now, from your view, the reason we even got Naisha Williams is because Kenneth Copeland gave a statement on June 10, 2015, articulating that he made calls at a certain time to the handset of Mr. Garlington. And you deducted potentially that would coincide with Naisha Williams' handset.
Yes, I thought that was a possibility. But like I said before, he also said that he called Mr. Garlington on FaceTime. Now, he didn't specify if all the calls were FaceTime calls. Some were voice calls that would show up on cell phone records. But apparently there were multiple ways that, according to Mr. Copeland anyway, that he would have contacted Mr. Garlington. So I surmised that based on the time of the calls, that perhaps this 404-621-0102 number that was subscribed to by somebody named Naisha Williams may have been Garlington. But again, I don't know.
I understand. And I appreciate you telling and educating the jurors. Now, Mr. Copeland said around the 8 o'clock time, so 7:53, 7:59, I'm including that time, that he was in a car with Mr. Garlington and Mr. McMullen, also known as Nard.
So I don't recall Mr. Copeland pinpointing the exact times that any of these things happened. We may just have to deduce it based on everything else in the case. So to be exact, I don't know that he ever said, I was in a car with these people at this exact time.
Let me do it a little differently then. From the McDonald's going to the Sky House, he had traveling with him Mr. Garlington and Mr. Demise McMullen, also known as Nard.
Yes.
According to Mr. Copeland.
Mhm.
Okay. But you have the handsets of Naisha Williams and the handset of Demise McMullen, also known as Nard, contacting one another around the times that this Mr. Copeland's car would be traveling from the McDonald's to the Sky House, if he's true.
That is correct.
All right. Do you know of a reason that people would call one handset to another handset in the same car?
Sustained.
All right. Let's go to Mr. Copeland's claim on June 10, 2015, that he traveled with his phone that we have, that he says he had with him, from the McDonald's to Jeffery Williams' Sky House condominium on January 10, 2015, approximately. I'm using the 8 o'clock time. I understand 7:53, whatever, but around that time. Do you have any phone records to show on Mr. Copeland's phone that he says he had with him that he was ever using a tower near the Sky House of Jeffery Williams after leaving the cell tower of the McDonald's on the evening of January 10, 2015?
From what I remember, he did use a tower near the Sky House at 11:14 p.m. that evening. But that's what I recall. I mean, obviously the records are in evidence, but yeah, 11:14, short answer.
But according to Mr. Copeland, he's leaving the McDonald's and driving to the Jeffrey Williams condominium located at the Sky House on the exact date and time that we're talking about, and he went directly there.
I don't know. That's what I recall. He did say, I don't know if he said we went directly there, or if he just omitted that they made pit stops along the way. But my recollection was that the short answer to your question is I don't know if he said they went directly there or not, or if that's what he meant to say. But yes, the phone didn't travel from the McDonald's directly to the Sky House.
Okay. And Mr. Copeland also told law enforcement on June 10, 2015, that from the McDonald's at the appropriate time that we're talking about and date we're talking about, on the way to the Sky House, he followed the vehicle that contained Jeffrey Williams and Mr. Kelvin Treadwell and others. Do you remember that?
I do.
All right. And Kevin Treadwell's nickname would be OG Bentley. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Understanding Mr. Kelvin Treadwell's phone records, does Mr. Treadwell's phone records indicate that he is at or near a tower by Jeffrey Williams Sky House condominium on June 10th, 2015, after being down by the McDonald's area?
Do you mean January 10th, 2015?
What did I say?
June 10th.
No,
But-
no. I'm sorry. Yes, you are correct.
Okay, I do not. I'm referring to my report to refresh my recollection, but I don't recall seeing that Mr. Treadwell's handset pinged off a tower near the Sky House condominiums.
All right. Do you have any, if you're looking to, I'll wait for you. I apologize.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm done.
You stand by your answer.
I stand by my answer.
Okay. Do you have any physical evidence, eyewitness, surveillance video that Mr. Treadwell, Kelvin Treadwell, actually had the killing weapon or the other weapons that were used at the time of the shooting of Donovan Thomas and the other two people, as stated by Mr. Kenneth Copeland on June 10, 2015?
Okay, well, he's making a whole lot of objections, so overruled as to relevance, and he's not limited to the phone records, so overruled on that. And what was the other one? Sustained.
There's been 10, okay. Do you remember Mr. Copeland stating that Mr. Treadwell had, or OG Bentley, also known as OG Bentley, had guns that were used in the shooting of Donovan Thomas and the other two people in his car given to him around the McDonald's 2010 that we're talking about?
Yes, he said that.
Do you have any physical evidence, surveillance evidence, anything to corroborate that those guns were actually in that car at any time or given to Mr. Treadwell?
No.
All right. Now, I want to ask you to educate the jurors if you are aware of what a geofence is. If you're not aware, just say, I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm aware of what a
Can you-
geofence is. I'm aware of what a geofence is. If we're talking about the variant that Google produces, yes.
If you can you explain to the jurors what is a geofence and how it works and how you use it in your everyday or whenever it's needed in your duties as a district attorney working with law enforcement?
Okay, so basically, Google has compiled over the years the general locations of Wi-Fi signals, and there's a variety of means that they've done this, but it suffices to say that Google has a database that has a set of points that define roughly, or maybe exactly, the boundaries of Wi-Fi signals, maybe cell phone. I mean, this is, I don't work for Google, but this is what I've come to understand. And that based on this, Google, if you have an Android device in particular, with location services turned on, Google can approximate your location because while you may not be connected to a certain Wi-Fi network, your phone can nevertheless see the Wi-Fi network. So if your phone can see a Wi-Fi network, and Google, because like I said, they know where the Wi-Fi networks are generally, then Google has a pretty good idea where your phone might be at a certain time.
In this case, if you know, was a Google Fence analysis and search warrant taken out for the phone, targeting the phone of Jeffrey Williams that he had on him on the 10th day of January 2015?
No, no, there was no geofence warrant done for Mr. Williams' phone that I know of.
Let me ask you just to refresh your memory, if it does refresh your memory.
I know there was a geofence warrant done, but a warrant specific to Mr. Williams' phone, I don't recall that. But if you have something to refresh my memory, maybe that will help.
What number do you have for Jeffrey Williams' cell phone, January 10, 2015, if you don't mind?
Well, there's one that ends in 3904 and one that ends in 9596.
Let me show you, just for purposes of seeing if this refreshes your memory. If it doesn't, tell me.
You may.
I'm showing you a document. Do not, may I approach you?
Yes.
Just give me a peek at it. Just tell me if you've seen it before, and if you were involved in it, and if it refreshes your memory, and if it doesn't, tell me that as well. And on the second page, second to last paragraph, you should see that phone number you just articulated.
I have not seen this. I was aware that I know who this investigator is. I was vaguely aware he was working on things like this, but this was not a search warrant that I drafted.
All right. You weren't involved in that part of this investigation.
I recall looking at a warrant that he did for a geofence, but that's not what this is. I know. I don't know. I see what maybe he was trying to do, but I don't recall ever seeing that
All
one.
right. Your Honor, may I retrieve the document?
You may.
I will not ask you about this, sir, okay?
Okay.
All right. Let me ask you this. Are you aware, in your involvement in this case, whether you, your office, your prosecution team, the whole group, ever tracked the cell phone associated with Kelvin Watts, also known as, do you remember his?
I do remember. I know who Kelvin was.
Shell, same person?
Yeah, I know who he is. Yes.
Okay. Tracking his cell phone historic data related to these shootings in 2015.
Well, for Mr. Watts, the one case that I recall was a shooting of a fatal shooting of a young lady named Tiara Jones. We did have phone tower logs, and that would have been September 2015, but that's the only case I remember.
Did you or your coworkers, the prosecution team, ever analyze the cell phone historic data records for Kenneth Copeland's phone from these shootings in 2014 through 2015?
Well, apart from what we're talking about right here, January 10th, 2015, I don't recall now.
Do you remember on phone records, getting phone records or viewing phone records of a young lady named Alexis Greer, also known either as Max, also known as Dolly? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I do.
All right. And through your investigation, your belief, if you don't know, just say Jeffrey Williams' sister,
Yes.
older sister.
That was my understanding, yes.
All right. Do you remember that at 12:04 a.m. on the 11th day of January 2015, the handset or cell phone associated with Alexis Greer, Max, Dolly Greer, same person, called 911?
I don't recall that. If I ordered her phone records, if it's in there, I'm sure it's true, but I don't remember that specific 911 call. Yeah, I don't remember that.
All right. Well, let me ask you a different question then. Did you ever get, or the prosecution teams, I'm including everybody, did you, to your knowledge, ever obtain the actual 911 call from a handset associated with Alexis Greer, the actual words?
No, I don't recall anything about this 911 call, so I can't imagine that we obtained it unless this has completely slipped my mind. But no, I don't remember that.
Let me just show you something, see if it refreshes your memory. If it doesn't, just say, it does not help, okay?
Okay.
Your Honor, may I approach
You
this for a
may.
minute? It's going to be behind you, Mrs. Spring. I'm going to walk right behind you, okay? Your Honor, may I just already use as a demonstrative? May I publish
You may.
for one moment? Mr. Sprinkle, I'm just going to hold this up if that's okay with you. Okay. If I block you, I can just let you know. Do you see on here, can you read that exhibit number on for me?
It's exhibit 533YF.
Show that to the jury, lady, Your Honor. And I am looking on here specifically at the fourth line there. Do you see that 911 says 104 seconds?
I do. I see that.
And do you see the 1990?
I do.
Do you know if that corresponds to Dolly Greer? I can help you with that too.
Yeah, I might need my memory refreshed. I don't recall.
It's right here. I'm just going to pull this back on this one. Okay, I see it now. Can you just do me a favor, since I'm showing it to you, can you read the exhibit number?
It is 533Y, it's like A.
Okay, and who's the 1990 number associated with?
Dolly Greer.
All right. My question then, does this in any way help you to remember whether you, let me go, yell at you. Does that help you with whether you or your coworkers ever had possession of that 911 call? The actual, I'm talking about, this is 911 and here's a recording.
Right. I don't recall that.
How long a 911 call is kept by APD? If you know.
1 year is what I've always, unless that retention period has changed, 1 year is what I've always known them to keep them.
Okay. I want to ask you, you were asked by the Honorable Mr. Body a couple of questions about listening to or being present at, actually, interviews of Mr. Zachary, also known as Little D.
That's correct.
All right. And there's two Little Ds. Earlier, I was saying Mr. Garlington, he's also Little D. Fair to say?
That's correct.
All right. I'm now talking about Mr. Zachary.
Yes.
also known as another little D. All right. You were present at the April 13, 2017 recorded interview with Mr. Zachary, fair to say?
Yes, I was there.
And you were there with other law enforcement, including Detective Thorpe, Detective Dennis, Detective Gaither. I believe if I'm leaving someone out, I'm not trying to.
Yes, that's correct.
You were not present for the August 5, 2015 interview with Mr. Zachary, but you've referenced it today with Mr. Body and you've reviewed that. Fair to say?
That's right.
That's also audio video. Fair?
That's correct.
In the August 5th, 2015 interview that you recorded, that you reviewed, that was recorded that you reviewed, did Mr. Zachary make it clear that Mr. Williams did not know about the killing of Donovan Thomas till afterwards?
From what I remember, yes, he did talk. Yes, the short answer to your question is yes.
In the April 13, 2017 interview with Mr. Zachary, did he say something similar?
I don't recall how much detail we went into him on that, but yes, from what I remember, he said the same thing. He had no point implicated Mr. Williams.
I'm going to ask you the same exact questions, same dates. We'll take them one at a time if it's okay with you. Start with the August 5, 2015 recording that you reviewed first. The tour bus shooting of a gentleman, phenomenal artist, Dwayne Carter, also known as Lil Wayne. You know who I'm talking about?
I do.
All right, that's April 26, 2015 date, that shooting of the tour bus?
Oh, yes, yeah, April 2015. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And is it fair to say that Mr. Zachary, at the August 5th, 2015 interview, you were not present for it, but you reviewed, said that Mr. Williams had no involvement in that whatsoever, and Lil Wayne, Jeffery Williams idolizes Lil Wayne?
I don't remember, since I wasn't working on that case, but so I don't remember exactly what he said, but I do remember him mentioning it, and he did not mention that Mr. Williams was involved.
Same question for you, August or April 13, 2017. If it came up, tell the ladies and gentlemen, jury, if Mr. Zachary again stated Mr. Williams was not involved in the shooting bus of that tour bus.
That I don't recall it coming up during that interview.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you remember Mr. Zachary stating that Mr. Copeland was responsible for shooting TIG? Do you know what TIG Studios is? You know what I'm talking about?
Metropolitan Parkway?
Yeah, 675?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you remember Mr. Zachary explaining that Mr. Copeland fired bullets into that establishment?
Okay, I need you to speak up a little bit.
It's in the recording that was played for the jury, that was reviewed by Mr. Sprinkle, and Mr. Abadi asked Mr. Sprinkle about that same interview. Not my recollection of how.
Sustained.
Do you recall Mr. Zachary stating that Mr. Copeland and Tay, do you know who Tay is? Tay, T-A-Y. I'm spelling T-A-Y.
Which Tay?
Threat.
No, I don't recall this.
You don't remember?
I do not remember this.
Do you remember Mr. Zachary stating that Mr. Copeland and another person were responsible for shooting Rich Homie Kwan's father at the barbershop? Different barbershop, not the January 10, 2015.
No, I don't remember that.
Okay. All right, let's talk about all the work that you talked about here and your studies, and I'm not mentioning everything, but your interviews, reviewing interviews, cell phone plotting, videos, all your work, okay? Then in some point, do you remember the date in 2018 you interviewed Mr. Kelvin Treadwell, O.G. Bentley? Do you remember that?
Which day was this again?
2018.
Oh, right. Yes, I do remember that. Yes, that was another matter, but yeah, I do remember it.
And do you remember stating that you can't understand why people think that Thug, I call him Jeffrey, had something to do with the killing of Nut, I call him Mr. Thomas, that doesn't make sense? That's a thing that always confused me about this case, because all these rumors started immediately that young Thug had something to do with it. But yeah, then young Thug put a picture of him on Instagram, Mr. Thomas. So I'm looking at these people saying, oh, you and little Woody had something to do with it. The more investigated the case, the more I've investigated the case, I just don't, near as I could tell, young Thug and Birdman were friends with Mr. Thomas or Nut. So I don't know why people say that he was involved.
Well, I recorded the interview, so I'm assuming that's a verbatim quote. I don't have everything I said during that interview memorized, but I'm assuming that, like I said, since you're reading from a transcript, that, yeah, I said that.
All right. The jurors may not, they're getting insight now into how jail phones work, jail recordings work, things like that. But I'd like you to explain to him, if you know, people who visit people at the jail, 2015, okay? If you know, can you yourself, you're a lawyer, can you actually physically go into the jail, with permission, everything's lawful, it's ethical, I'm not suggesting anything, and actually get up on a floor and meet with someone who, God forbid's, in custody? Have you done that before?
At the Fulton County Jail?
Fulton County Jail, thank you.
No, I've never done it. Now, I don't have clients. I'm not a defense attorney, but I can tell you as a prosecutor, I've met with people at the jail, but it's never been in the pods. It's in the library.
Sure.
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying. Just get access to the jail and meet with a human being who's, God forbid, incarcerated. You've done that before?
I've done that before.
Do you know whether the jail in 2015 now had surveillance for people walking in and out of the jail? I'm talking about the common area, walking in and out of jail, if you know.
I do not know, because I don't recall ever seeing footage, not on this matter or any other matter, from that area. It would seem logical that they would, but I can't say that I have personal knowledge that they did.
How about when a person, we could use you, so your personal knowledge, in 2015, if this happened to you, going into the Fulton County Jail to see somebody, in custody, have to sign in any paperwork, show your ID?
Yes, that you have to do.
All right. And to your knowledge, is that saved by law enforcement? The jail?
From what I remember, it was the sort of paper that it would create it was like a carbon paper, the kind of paper that it would make a copy of it when you write on it. So they'd give you a copy, and then they retain the copy with the impression left from the original. Now, as to what their record-keeping practices are at the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, that I don't know. All I know is they had it set up so they would keep a copy. I can say that, but I don't know what their record retention was after that.
And for people who may not know, who's in charge of, who is constitutionally in charge of running the Fulton County Jail?
I'm going to object to relevance.
Sustained?
All right. Your Honor, may I have just a moment?
Sure.
Do you know whether the sheriff officials ever log? Do you know what Odyssey is?
I do.
Just tell the jurors what Odyssey is.
It's a database. It's just a piece of software made by a company called Tyler Technologies. I believe they're out of Texas. And it's used here by the staff in the Fulton County Justice System, staff at the DA's office, the courts, and the jail. And it's basically just all of the data. All the cases in the system are maintained in this Odyssey database. The DA's office keeps their records, part of their records anyway, in the Odyssey database, and the jail keeps their records in this database.
Does the jail on Odyssey, you can access that?
I'm going to object to relevance again.
Sustained, as far as I can tell.
Okay. People visiting people in the jail, is that also on Odyssey?
Yeah.
I'm going to object to relevance.
it'll come up with with the witness in the future.
All right, I'll give you some latitude.
So yes, there is in the what's called the jail module. When you click on a bookend number, there will be a tab called contacts, and I've seen entries made. Now, reason why I'm going to hesitate a little bit here is, and I can't remember exactly when, but I from what I remember, there have been times when I knew a visit was made and it didn't get logged. Because everything in Odyssey has to be entered by a human. Well, maybe not everything, but something like contacts would have to be entered by a human. So the data is only as good as the people are tasked with entering it. So yes, I can tell you this. There is in the jail module that the sheriff's office maintains, there is an area for them to enter data regarding the date and time of a contact and who came to contact that person. But I don't know that every single contact they're diligent about logging every single one, or if there are variants of contacts that they don't log, you would have to ask somebody from the sheriff's office about that.
So Sprinkle, as always, thank you so much. Your Honor, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
All right, are there other defense counsel with questions for this witness? Is there redirect? Oh, you do. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
ADA, Michael Sprinkle. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I have a few questions for you. When you testified some days and weeks ago, you were giving the jury some background in terms of how long you've been with the district attorney's office, right?
Yes.
And you talked about some of the various roles that you've had in the district attorney's office. You've been in the complaint room, right?
That's right.
And in recent years, I think you said from the last several years, you've had a dual role as both a prosecutor and an investigator, right?
Well, so I haven't been given the title of investigator. You know, I'm not post-certified, so calling me an investigator is more of I guess you can call me that informally, just because because of what I'm tasked with doing for the DA's office. I necessarily am investigating things, but I'm not, as far as my employment is concerned, I'm not on paper an investigator. I'm just a prosecutor, an attorney.
Understood. So you're a prosecutor, but some of your tasks in the prosecutor's office involves some investigations.
That's right.
Fair enough. Okay. Now, you testified in days and weeks ago that sometimes a detective, a law enforcement officer, when they make an initial arrest, sometimes they'll hand a file over to the prosecutor's office, to the district attorney's office, and you testified that sometimes after they make an arrest, they feel their work is complete. You remember saying that?
I remember saying that, yes.
Okay. In other words, the detective believes that after they make the arrest, based on your statement, that their file is done, they've gotten an arrest, and they'll hand it over to you guys.
I've definitely seen that, yes.
Okay. And when your office gets it, it sounds like either an investigator who has that official term investigator, or someone like yourself, a prosecutor who informally has the role of investigations, will pick up the file, blow it off, and continue some investigations in the particular file. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Now, some of the things that you would expect to see when you get a file from the police department, from law enforcement, you would expect to see police statements from witnesses, right?
Yes.
A lot of times you might want to see video surveillance if it's there, if it's available, right?
That's right.
Sometimes text messages, phone records, things of that nature.
That's right.
When it's not there,
Sustained.
so when those items are not there, you get the file, or someone in your stead will get the file and continue the work of investigations. Now, in this particular case, I want to talk to you about a specific time frame around April 26 or so, 2019. An alleged armed robbery that is supposed to have occurred at 741 Morosco Drive Northeast, 12:39 a.m. in the morning. Do you know anything about a case involving an armed robbery of supposedly involving Mr. Marquavius Huey concerning that particular time frame?
I don't have that exact date and time memorized. I'm familiar with Mr. Huey. That address sounds familiar, but I don't remember the facts of the case.
Okay. So that being said, without having that memory, so you don't recall you specifically doing any investigations concerning requesting any potential video surveillance of any VIC cameras in that area of 741 Morosco Drive?
No, I'm afraid I don't, unless you have something to refresh my memory. I don't.
I'm not saying you do, or it's not a trick question. I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
saying
I
you
don't.
were involved. I'm asking you if you were. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't have any memory of that.
Okay. Are you familiar with Google image search capacity?
Yes, when you upload an image into Google and it tries to find like images.
Yes. To your knowledge, well, you didn't take any actions or do any actions on the alleged armed robbery from April 26, 2019. But I think you've already indicated that. Is that correct?
Well, I don't want to say I didn't. I just can't. I just don't remember. Some of those dates and the locations sound familiar, but I also have dealt with hundreds of cases, so I could be getting cases mixed up. If just a date and time and address isn't enough to go on. So I just don't remember.
Okay. And so as we sit here today, you can't tell the jury that you specifically, you yourself, were involved with any investigation, to your knowledge, for an April 26, 2019 alleged armed robbery at 741 Morosco Drive. Is that fair?
Sustained.
Okay. Nothing further. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Redirect.
Mr. Sprinkle, back in 2019, were you assigned to the major case division that handles homicides and particular homicides only? Back in 2019, around the date in which Mr. Matthews just asked you about, were you assigned specifically to the major case division that handled homicides and vehicular homicides or cases involving death?
Yes.
Okay. And in your time working in the capacity that you've described to us now on 1, 2, 3 occasions, have you had cases with phone records and no video surveillance?
Yes.
And Mr. Steele asked you a number of questions concerning video surveillance and the McDonald's. Do you remember all those questions?
Yes.
Do you have any idea if the video cameras at that McDonald's were even operable back in January of 2015?
I don't know.
And Mr. Steele asked you on cross about what Mr. Zachary and Mr. Copeland had indicated about who did or didn't kill Donovan Thomas. Do you remember him asking about that?
Yes.
Can you tell the jurors who did Mr. Zachary and Mr. Copeland both say were involved in the killing of Donovan Thomas? Do you recall?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury?
Diamante Kendrick, Shannon Stillwell, Demise McMullen, and Justin Cobb.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right. Any recross? Anybody? All right. Thank you, Mr. Sprinkle. You are excused. Call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Detective Underwood to the stand.
Okay.
Kimberly Underwood, Kimberly Underwood.
And where are you employed?
City of Atlanta Police Department.
And what do you do for the City of Atlanta Police Department?
I'm actually a recaptured employee, meaning that I retired after 31 years of service. And they called me back, or they let me come back as a contractor with the gang unit because I spent the majority of my career in the gang unit.
And how long have you been back under the recapture program?
I'm in my second year, so almost 2 years.
And tell the jury a little about what you do now, back in the recapture program, and then when you were at APD before retirement.
Okay, now they brought me back because I'm a senior investigator, I'm an instructor. They wanted me to really kind of mentor the younger investigators. I also teach at the police academy, so the recruits have to take a 4-hour class from me before they hit the streets about gang identification, gang awareness, gang investigations, and so forth. I also assist background and recruitment. We have to screen our applicants because we do have gang members that try to get employment, try to infiltrate the Atlanta Police Department. So I assist with the screening of them. Whenever an investigator have like a warrant or paperwork that they're not sure about, they'll bring it to me and I can proofread it or kind of help them with their cases. Before that, like I said, I spent 14 years before I retired in the gang unit. Prior to that, I was in licensing permits as an investigator. I was Zone 3 CID as an investigator. I did most of my career in Zone 3. So I've had, like I said, 31 years of experience with the police department.
And do you hold any degrees or certifications pertaining to law enforcement?
Yes, I have a degree from Columbia Southern University in criminal justice administration. I got my associates in criminal justice from Georgia Military College. I have over 2,000 hours in law enforcement training, and I still go to training even though I'm retired. I have over 1,000 hours, maybe hundreds of hours in gang training because even though I'm retired, I still go to trainings and meetings and stuff like that to stay up on the gang trends.
And are you a member of any law enforcement organizations?
Yes, I'm a member of Georgia Investigators Association, Georgia Gang Investigation Association.
Is that short GGIA?
Yes.
And you spoke briefly about presentations. Have you ever made presentations on law enforcement topics to any professional organizations?
Yes. Back when I first started teaching, which was back in 2011, I used to do a lot of the Atlanta Public Schools because I was a resource officer as well at Atlanta Public Schools. So I would teach the administrators on what to look for when it came to gangs in schools. I would do block captains in neighborhoods. I would go to City Hall and the block captains would come in and I would kind of give them a gang presentation on what to look for in their neighborhoods. I've done Grady EMS. Whenever they go to calls, they like to know what they're getting into when they're dealing with victims, whether they're gang members or whether there's going to be like retaliation while they're trying to triage a patient or whatever. I've done the military. I've done Atlanta Fire Department. They also want classes about gangs because they're EMTs as well. They have to do first, they're first responders, so they might like to know what they're looking for as well. Fire cadets. It's a list of different, groups that I've talked to about gangs.
And if you could tell the jury about, I think you said you had about over 1,000 hours of.
Maybe close to 1,000 hours. It's over 100. I know it's hundreds of hours. Again, I can't tell you exactly. I did probably submit my training from like at my daughter maybe, but it's hundreds of hours of gang training.
Give just a synopsis of some of the courses that you take as a part of that 100 hours of training, over hundreds of hours of training.
Well, I started out when I first started the gang unit, I had no idea about gangs, even though I grew up here in the city of Atlanta where we really didn't have gangs, I can, I say. But I started off in California. I went to California, did some gang training. It was mostly like gang
So
awareness.
I need you to slow down for me just a little.
I'm sorry,
Slow
ma'am.
down. Okay.
Gang awareness, gang identification, interviews and interrogations of gang members, courtroom testimony, training. So anything that was pretty much dealing with gangs, I have been trained or either have trained people.
Outside of formal training, have you had the occasion to, in your personal experience as a investigator, speak with, interview individuals who identify as part of gangs?
Yes, pretty much my whole career as a gang investigator, I've done that.
And you talked about some of your trainings, talking about the national gang trends. Are those some of the topics that you learned as part of your gang training?
Yes.
Have you had the occasion to study gang trends here in Georgia?
Yes.
Over your 14 years working in the gang unit at APD, can you provide an estimate of how many gangs you have investigated?
Whenever I started the gang unit, we had a bunch of hybrids, like non-traditional gangs. So counting those, it was over 100.
And over the course of 14 years, how many times have you come in contact with individuals who identify as gang members or who are identified as gang members?
I would come in contact with them daily because that was a part of my, I guess, duties as a gang investigator. But like I said, I did work for the Atlanta public school system where I came in contact with them there as well.
Can you even give a number of approximately how many gang members you have investigated or interviewed?
Over the years, I would say hundreds.
And as a gang investigator, did you have your own caseload?
I did. I have had caseloads, but what I did like about working in the gang unit that we did joint investigations. So most of our larger investigations are either, like the smash and grab burglaries or robberies or whatever. We would work as a team or as a group on cases.
Have you ever been a part of sharing information and intelligence with law enforcement, other law enforcement agencies?
Yes, we actually, like I said, the GGIA meetings, we meet with other agencies from all over the state of Georgia. I've gone to Cobb and assisted on cases, Clayton, the CAB, I've testified in the CAB to assist them. So yes, we do information sharing. I actually have a meeting next week with the Atlanta Public Schools and all the other schools in the metro. We get together and share information about gang trends.
And do you stay current on gang trends, including rivalries, alliances, customs, and habits?
Yes.
In the experience and training that you've just described, have you developed a familiarity with criminal street gangs, their activities, customs, and behaviors, both across the United States and Georgia?
Yes.
Have you received any training on how gangs use music to promote allegiances within their gang?
Yes.
That's overruled at this point.
Have you received any training on how gangs use music to promote violence?
Yes.
What about how gangs use music to promote fear in other gangs?
Yes.
What about how gangs use music to promote cohesiveness within their gang?
Yes.
And what about how gang members use music to send messages to rival gangs?
Yes.
Have you ever been qualified as a gang expert here in the state of Georgia?
Yes, in Fulton County Superior in federal court, because I left out the part about me being a task force officer for 6 years while I was doing my time at the gang unit from 2013 to 2020. Federal court, DeKalb County Superior Court.
And you said you were a federal task officer for what agency?
For ATF.
And what were some of your responsibilities as an ATF task officer when you were assigned to that unit?
my responsibilities over there was to mainly focus on the VROs, the violent repeat offenders, who, when I went over there, I really didn't want to go over there, but when I went over there, I was told by my superiors that I could still work gang. I had been in gangs and I wanted to do gangs. So when I went to ATF, I was told that I can actually focus on the violent gang members. So when I was at ATF, that's what I did. All of my suspects that I came across were violent repeat offender that were actually gang members. We kept up with NIBIN, where I actually went to training to learn about NIBIN and how we were able to match crime scenes with just the casings or firearms that we recovered. The caseloads that we did get were kind of like adopted cases from the police departments around the metro that we worked.
Your Honor, this time the state would like to tender Investigator Kim Underwood as an expert in criminal street gangs and criminal gang activity.
You may, yes. Mhm.
approach?
Yes.
Sorry. As a part of the gang unit with APD, were you familiar with a gang YSL?
Yes.
And does YSL go by any specific names?
Young Slime Life. I've heard Young Stoner Life.
And how are you familiar with Young Slime Life?
I'm familiar with YSL. What happened was I've been in, like I said, the gang unit since 2009.
All right.
Let me ask you this. Was there an iteration of YSL prior to the name YSL?
Yes.
And what was that gang called?
Rock Crew.
And were you familiar with Rock Crew?
Yes.
And how were you familiar with Rock Crew?
From gang investigations while I was an investigator in the gang unit.
And about around what year or time was there a transition from Rock Crew into YSL?
Sustained. Sustained.
Okay. Let me ask you, are you familiar with another gang, YFN If Gang?
I am.
And how are you familiar with that gang?
They are Inglewood Family Bloods. YFN is a subset of the Inglewood Family Bloods.
And based on your knowledge of gangs, did those two gangs have a rivalry?
Yes.
Overruled. And can you please use your mic? It'll make it easier. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry. Wish it weren't the case in here that this sounds so complicated, but it is.
And just approximately how long has that rivalry been in place?
Asked and answered, cumulative.
Sustained.
Have you heard of the term gang war?
Yes.
And how have you heard of that term gang war?
Objection, relevance, and it's self-explanatory.
Sustained. I mean, not relevance, but it is self-explanatory.
As part of the gang unit, were you familiar with the facts of the Donovan Thomas murder and the retaliatory shooting surrounding Donovan Thomas's murder?
Yes.
And how were you familiar?
Name that we gave the investigation. So whenever Donovan Thomas was murdered, the gang war ensued and several shootings around the city. So APD and ATF came together to investigate those shootings and to try to stop the gang war.
And were you involved in any of those investigations?
Yes.
How were you involved in those investigations?
Like I said, I was a task force officer with ATF. What happened was we all got together, the gang unit at APD and special agents at ATF. We all got together and we would meet like weekly about the shootings because they were rapid and happening so much that we had to do something. So we all used to get together and we kind of divided up the cases between different officers, investigators, agents, or whatever to, like I said, try to stop the gang war.
Okay. And did you have any particular focus for you as a part of that kind of collaborative effort?
Yes, because I was a federal agent. I was tasked with handling anybody that was a federal target, meaning that if they could go to federal court opposed to state court, I was involved in those cases because I was a federal task force officer. So I could prosecute a case federally when my partners over at APD couldn't because they were not task force officers.
And as a federal task force officer, did you find that you were involved with more of the YSL side of the gang war or the YFN side of the gang war?
Sustained.
Okay. What were the two entities that were engaged in this gang war?
Answer cumulative.
Sustained.
In preparation for your testimony today, have you had the opportunity to review some of the reports that came in back in 2015?
Yes.
Have you also had an opportunity to review some of the operation planners report that summarized some of the incidents that occurred in 2015?
Yes.
Have you also had the occasion to review a video from Magic City?
Yes.
And we'll speak about this more, but have you reviewed any type of music in this case in order for your preparation for your testimony today?
Yes.
Based on your review of the reports and your knowledge of the events in 2015, in your opinion, was there a gang war going on in the city of Atlanta?
I'm clearly going to object to cumulative 704B, and this is the fourth gang expert that the state has called the same exact events.
All right, well, one of them was, all of yesterday's testimony from that person was excluded. So
I didn't mean to interrupt the honorable court. Actually, that person testified 3 previous times.
I know, and that was not excluded. And I would imagine, why don't y'all approach?
Your Honor, I believe I may have failed to do this, or if I did, I'll just do it again. Your Honor, this time today would like to tender Investigator Underwood as an expert in criminal street gang activities and an understanding of gang culture and how music can be a part of gang culture.
All right, she is so qualified and may testify as such.
Thank you.
I maintain my previous objection.
Yes, of course.
Now, I want to go specifically, Detective Underwood, to the week leading up to Donovan Thomas's death. Okay. And from the review of the records, do you recall Donovan Thomas being killed on January 10th, 2015?
Yes.
Right. I want to go back to that week, earlier in that week. Are you aware of, through your own personal knowledge of what was occurring in 2015, a fight at Club Crucial?
Yes.
And who was involved in that fight at Club Crucial?
Kenneth Copeland and Kevin Watts.
After that fight at Club Crucial, did you become, and I'm going to ask just very specifically, about a shooting outside of Club Crucial?
Yes.
And on that same day, Mr. Arnold being stopped by police along with another individual?
Yes.
After that incident on January 6th, were you aware of any other incidents that occurred that week of 2015 before Donovan Thomas's murder or the killing of Donovan Thomas?
I can't think of offhand except for think over at maybe at a what they call it, it was a gambling spot in Zone 3 where a windshield was damaged and words were, I guess, exchanged or had about the windshield being damaged between rival gang members.
What about a shooting at TIG Studios?
Yes.
Now, after the death of Donovan Thomas Jr., in your opinion, based upon your understanding of what occurred in 2015 from reports and your own parts of your investigation, after the shooting of Donovan Thomas, was there a main target of individuals associated with YFN or If Gang?
I don't understand the question.
Sure, sorry. Did they have someone that they were targeting, individuals who were associated with If Gang and YFN after Donovan Thomas's murder?
Vague with they and also
Sustained.
Sure. After Donovan Thomas's murder, was there an individual who was targeted?
Yes.
God bless you.
speculation, calls for speculation of the intent of others.
Sustained. You may rephrase.
Sure. Based on, let me ask you this. After the death of Donovan Thomas Jr., did law enforcement receive information about shootings at several homes after Donovan Thomas's murder?
Yes, we received several 911 calls and incident reports were made at these locations.
Okay. And in evaluating and looking at those locations, were those locations associated with a particular individual?
Yes.
Who?
Kenneth Copeland.
And the homes that were targeted, that were in relation with Kenneth Copeland, do you know where those homes were located?
One was on Van Ira. I think I remember Deshaun Copeland's girlfriend. That was her mother's house. I remember his sister's house was targeted on Oakland over in Zone 4. And his brother's house was targeted on Hendricks Drive in Zone 3.
And did those particular shootings happen within the first few days after Donovan Thomas was killed.
Yes.
Now, in January of 2015, were there any shootings that came into the Atlanta Police Department in which the locations involved individuals who were associated with YFN?
Yes.
What were those locations?
I remember Rayshawn Bennett, aka Lucci's mother's home being shot over on Hill Street in Zone 3.
I'm going to object to previous testimony already given. It's cumulative.
Okay, go ahead and get to whatever point there is.
How many times was her home shot?
Twice.
Okay.
I'm going to ask her about the first time. Were there individuals from YFN who were at the location when police, because that's going to form what I have to ask next. Your Honor, this is part of what occurred yesterday.
Go ahead. I'll give you some latitude.
Thank you. The first time her home was shot, were there individuals at her home when police arrived?
Yes.
Who were those individuals?
Kelvin Watts, Jermaine Hardiman, and Jamal Ward. No, Jamal, I can't remember his last name.
Does the name Jamal Bynes sound familiar?
That sounds very familiar.
And were those individuals associated with any gang?
Yes, they were Inglewood family blood members.
And the second shooting of Miss Rayshawn Bennett's mother's house, was that on 1/26/2015?
Yes.
Okay. On that same day, on 1/26/2015, did you become aware of an incident in which Kenneth Copeland was shot at on the highway?
Your Honor, I'm just going to object to hearsay. Unless
Overruled.
Based on your review of the reports, did you become aware, whether it's part of the reports or your own
Yes.
knowledge of the
'cause
investigation?
At the time, we were actually keeping up with and collecting every incident that happened between the two gangs.
And so did you come aware of an incident in which Kenneth Copeland was shot on the highway on January 26, 2015?
He wasn't shot. I think he was shot at. Him and his brother they were fired upon while they was driving down the expressway.
Thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
Did you know that case number, was that for case number, APD case number 150260124?
That sounds correct.
All right. Now, did you also have the occasion to review APD incident case number 150262672?
Yes.
And was that the incident we just talked about when Lucy's mother's house was shot up?
Yes.
And did you also have the occasion to know of and look at APD case number 150262801, the shooting of Trevante Turner?
Yes.
And the location 198 Stanhope Circle, are you familiar with that location?
Yes.
How are you familiar with that location?
During the investigation, I found that whenever I prosecuted Jermaine Hardiman on the federal side, that was his residence.
And Trevante Turner, from your investigation, was he associated with a gang?
Yes, he was a 9 Trey blood, but he hung out with his bestie, Kenneth Copeland, who was YSL.
And in looking at those three case numbers, 15-026-0124, then 15-026-2672, and 15-026-2801. Would the 0124 incident be the first incident?
I think so. They're in chronological. If they're chronological, yes.
All right. And I'm going to put those numbers up because I know it's probably hard for you to remember what I just. If you, permission for, investigator Underwood to stand?
Yes, of course.
So I believe you just testified that 0124, there's a number in which Mr. Coble was shot at on the highway. And Copeland, was he associated with YSL?
Yes.
Then on 15-026-2672, is that when Lucci's mother's home was shot?
Yes.
And Lucci, what, if any, gang was he associated with?
YSL Inglewood family.
And then 15-026-2801, you said the location was in YSL, near YSL member's home?
Yes. The main harmony.
But the individual who was shot was
YSL.
in prison with another gang.
9 regulars.
Now I want to ask you about some incidents that occurred in February of 2015. February 10th specifically. Do you recall looking at an APD case report where there was a shooting of Kelvin Watts?
Yes.
Do you know where that shooting occurred?
It was over in Zone 3 on University Avenue, but it was very close to 30 deep territory.
And Kelvin Watts, was he associated with a gang?
Yes, the Inglewood family was.
On that same day, was there a shooting at 193 Henry?
Yes.
And who was associated with Henry there?
Kenneth Copeland's family, his brother.
And again, same Kenneth Copeland as above?
Yes.
YSL?
Yes.
And then on February 19, 2015, was there a shooting involving Kenneth Copeland and his child's mother?
I'm going to object to leading, Your Honor.
Sustained.
What, if anything, occurred on February 19, 2015?
Leading, Your Honor.
Overruled.
If that's the one over at Villages of Carver, whenever Chief Copeland was at his girlfriend's house, he was walking out with his baby and was fired upon by rival gang members while holding his baby.
Do you know who the rival gang members were?
Yes, I'll have to look at the report to refresh my memory, but I remember fighting parties being involved because he got blood in the car. So they actually cracked the car. It was Deontay Fleetwood, it was Josiah Johnson, and I never think of the last guy's name, but it was his girlfriend's car that they showed up in. The reason why we say solve crime.
Was Octavius?
Octavius.
All these people, white and men.
They are actually Inglewood family brothers.
Now, as you all, you have a secret right now. Now, within the first 6 months of 2015, did there ever come a point in which it appeared that the shooting kind of died down within the early portions of 2015?
Yes, around after those incidents in February, I think March was pretty quiet for us.
You said March is pretty quiet,
Yes.
right? Did it pick back up again at some point?
April.
As a part of your familiarity with Operation Plans and what was happening in 2015, was there a shooting on April 12th involving an individual by the name of I can rephrase. Are you aware of a shooting that occurred on April 12th, 2015?
Yes.
Who was the victim in that case?
Was that the one on 490 Glen? Or,
Let me ask you a better question.
right.
Are you familiar with an individual by the name of Dexter Montgomery?
Yes.
And were you familiar with a shooting involving a Dexter Montgomery?
Yes.
Did that occur in April of 2015?
Yes.
Also, are you familiar with the individual that goes by the name of Dwayne Carter or Little Wayne?
Yes,
Were you familiar with a shooting of his that occurred in April 2015?
I do. I am.
Were those two shootings considered a part of the Operation Planters?
They were.
Were those two shootings particularly determining part of the gang war between YFN and If Gang?
Yes.
Relevance.
Sustained.
Now, I want to take you specifically to April 28th, 2015. Did you have the occasion to review a report for 151180288?
Yes.
And do you recall what location that incident was?
I don't recall by case number. If you give me the location, I can probably tell you what happened there.
Was there an incident at Club Cushion?
Yes,
What occurred at Club Cushion?
it was a shootout.
Say, Your Honor.
Overruled.
And I'm
Objection
sorry,
cumulative.
just a little leeway.
It's all
Just
been
get the
cumulative,
facts on
Your
the
Honor.
paper. Overruled.
I'm going to show you what's been admitted as 1JJ. Looking at Section Exhibit 1JJ, do you see the incident number for 1JJ?
Yes.
What is that incident number?
151180288.
And where is that location?
2517 Donald Lee Hollowell, which would be Club Cushion.
Can you also show me what's been admitted as 2 Tango Tango? And while we're waiting for that to come up, was there an incident at 1903 Drew Drive?
Yes.
Was there also an incident that morning at 1428 Adele?
Yes.
And was there also an incident at 2900 Lincoln?
Yes.
wait, in the incident at Club Crucial, who was involved in that incident?
Objection cumulative.
I'll ask him
Yet again.
Was the individual a YSL associate?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna show you what's in a minute. It's 4 kilo kilo. And what incident is 4? What incident number is 4 kilo kilo?
151180462.
And what's that incident location?
1428 Adele Avenue, Southwest.
And then I'm going to show you 2 Lima Lima.
What is that incident number?
All right, ladies.
058.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. Hold on.
1903 Drew Drive, Northwest. Apartment 1. No, not over the apartment. No.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. That sound you
Yeah,
hear
apartment.
in the courtroom, it sounds like a dog, but it's actually the door, D-O-O-R.
Yes.
And do you know that case?
I don't know it by heart.
I'm going to show you what.
We're live, standby.
600 YYR. We're looking at to help refresh your memory as to what the incident number was.
Okay.
For 2900.
Okay.
What is that incident number?
It's 15118-0531.
Now, looking at, if you want to come here, you can, please. Looking at the first, would this have been in chronological order? Yes. I think we talked about for 0588, was that the location where the Meek Young, something happened to the Meek Young Rollins? Yes, he was shot at the club. And Meek Young Rollins, who did he associate with? YSL. Now, 1428 Adele Avenue, where was that location? That was Inglewood family gang member Darren Mills' address. And what occurred at that location? Was it a shooting? Yes, the house was shot up, and I think a lady was shot. Right. 2900 Landrum Drive. Who was associated with that location? From what I remember, it seemed like Summer Good was over there visiting and was targeted. She's Quindary Zachary. And Quindary Zachary, what gang was he associated with? And then 1903 Blue Drive. That was Philip Collins' girlfriend's apartment. Is it Phil or Philip? Philip Collins, aka Philo. His nickname is Philo. And was he white? He was Inglewood gang. So on April 28, 2015, there was an incident involving a YSL gang member at the club being beat up. Yes. And then right after that, there was a shooting at.
Sustained.
Is this what occurred on that day? Yes. Now, looking at what happens in April 28, 2015. February 10, 2015, and January 26, 2015. Was that the kind of example of the back and forth that was happening over the course of those first 6 months of 2015?
Yeah, I object to the example if they want to prove them individually. Otherwise, I object to the characterization of the example.
In your
Oh.
opinion,
Go ahead.
in your opinion, was that the back and forth that was happening based on police reports in January 25th, January through June 25th?
Sustained.
Was this what was happening? Yes. Was it a lot of back and forth?
Yes.
Now, as a part of your investigation, I want to take you to September of 2015. Were there any incidents involving an individual by the name of Shannon Stillwell as a part of your operation planners?
Yes.
And I want to specifically talk about September 26, 2015. Was there an incident involving also a woman by the name of Tierra Jones?
Yes.
And the individuals, were you aware of the individuals who were charged in that incident?
Yes, they were in Inglewood.
And it's also, in my opinion, my humble opinion, and it's also hearsay, and the expert is using as a conduit, is being used as a conduit for hearsay at this point.
Your Honor, this case was
Experts can testify based on hearsay. Overruled.
the individuals who were charged. Are you aware of an individual by the name of Dominique Carter?
Yes.
Does he have a nickname?
Stewie.
What about an individual by the name of Bobby Hardy?
Yes.
Is his nickname Smoke?
Yes.
Is that the same Bobby Hardy that we discussed for the incident that occurred February 19, 2015?
Yes.
And then it was an individual who goes by the nickname of Merrill.
Yes.
His name Jamal Ward.
Yes.
Were those individuals ultimately charged for what happened on 9/26/2015?
They were.
And were those individuals a part of If Gang as well?
Yes.
Now, taking you to about 4 days after that, on September 30th, 2015, were you, as a part of your investigation, did you learn of an incident that occurred at Magic City Adult Entertainment Center?
Yes.
And what occurred at that location? Was there a surveillance video? Were you able to observe a surveillance video at that location?
Yes.
And did you observe that surveillance video in preparation for court today?
Yes.
And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 543Y. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 543Y?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
It's a video that I initialed. It's a CD rather of a video from Magic City that I initialed today.
And does that video contain an incident involving a person by the name of Martinez Arnold?
Yes.
Does that show an incident that occurred at Magic City nightclub in September 2015?
Yes.
So you're saying what it is before it's been
Have you,
admitted.
were you aware of an incident at Magic City?
Yes.
I asked that earlier.
Right.
Okay. And have you seen a video regarding an incident that occurred at Magic City?
Yes.
Was that a fair and accurate depiction of the video of what you understand occurred at Magic City back?
I will object to foundation. There's no foundation for this exhibit.
How were you aware of the incident that occurred at Magic City?
I was aware because it was YSL member that was jumped inside of the club, and so.
Okay, I think we're gonna break for the day. We'll sort this out. And I know that somebody needed to leave early today anyway, so it seems like a good place to stop. I'm gonna see y'all all on Monday, and I'm wondering, we need, y'all come up here for a second. Y'all can go ahead and be gathering your stuff, but I may have y'all come in at 9:30 instead of 9, but I need to consult on some scheduling first, so don't leave before you get the show up time for Monday. Remember, don't talk to anybody about the case. Don't let anybody talk to you about the case. Do not view, read, observe any kind of media or social media or news or anything about the case or anybody involved in it. So y'all can go out to the jury room and I'll give y'all the show up time soon. at 8:30 on Monday. And I know that we need to get through motions in limine 64, 65, and 66. I don't know that the motion to reconsider is really gonna, I think it might be mooted. Well, to the extent I'm gonna need to entertain that, we'll have to deal with that as well. So I don't know that we can do that in 30 minutes. Do y'all think so? All of those things? I mean, maybe, but instead of having them show up at 9 and not reach them until 9:30 or 10. What?
I just don't know off the top of my head.
I mean, I don't know. They're the last three motions in limine that Mr. Steele filed that we never reached because we've been in court all day. I mean, all week. Oh, yes, thanks. But you don't know what time to be back either, but they'll let you know. Sorry. And I'm going to get y'all's responses sometime today. They're due today.
Yes, Your Honor.
And of course, they will as well.
I was going to update the court in terms of scheduling Monday. Me and Ms. D. Williams have been talking extensively about the remaining objections for Act 79 through 81.
Okay.
We're going to speak again after court today.
Okay.
There may be a very brief disagreement on the remainder,
Okay.
but we expect it would be quite brief and similar to the arguments that we've discussed previously. I just wanted to.
All right. Well, great. Then that could be something we can finalize.
Yes, Your Honor.
Monday morning. I'm just going to tell them 9:30 and tell y'all 8:30. And I think we can get through those things in an hour, but I don't think we could get through them in a half an hour. Okay. Laura, do you mind letting them know that? What?
Okay. Your Honor, I would just humbly ask that if the state could provide us with an updated roadmap of what witnesses.
Yeah, they're
Fine, yeah.
supposed to be doing that. And did y'all say you had already emailed it?
No, not yet, Your Honor. We will email that today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is this from,
For next week.
we'll definitely have, I think, from Monday, and we're trying to just confirm some other things, but we'll definitely have the witnesses from Monday.
Okay, so it needs to be for next week, and if some of them are, we're not sure about this person, then just put a little note, we're not sure about this person, or it may be this group, if not, it's gonna be that group, okay? But that needs to be done today for the whole week. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll see everybody at 8:30 on Monday. I didn't actually give y'all a time, but I mean, yeah. I'm sure that for the witness list, everybody would like it before then. For the responses, 11:59 is fine if y'all don't have them ready yet.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take a, all right, so we're adjourned for the day.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, mic check, put a one in the chat. Put a one in the chat. So, just checked, stand by. Okay, guys. All right. Put a one in the chat. Can you hear me? Put a one in the chat. Just checked. The hearing is going to happen at 4 p.m. But from what I'm told right now, it won't be televised. It won't be televised. Or it might be televised. Stand by. All right, guys, I'm waiting for an update. They're clearing the courtroom out right now, and that's why the judge stopped the cameras. But let's see how this plays out. Stand by. All right, guys, we're going to bring a live shot from the courtroom. Stand by. Stand by. We are going to be bringing a live shot from inside the courtroom. Stand by. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in just a few minutes, the hearing should begin. Okay, if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter, we are live.
All right. This is a probation revocation matter.
Yes, Judge. State filed a notice of probation revocation for the defendant as to his violation of the special or a special condition within the sentence that he received from Judge Glanville on December 8th of 2023 as it relates to his reviewing, acknowledging that the factual acknowledgments that were a part of the plea agreement in which he entered into on December 8th of 2023. I have a certified copy of the conviction for Your Honor with a certified copy of the indictment, as well as a copy of the transcript of the plea that was taken on December 8th of 2023. An exhibit within that plea transcript is the plea agreement, which includes the sections, I believe it's sections 4 and sections 5 of the plea agreement as it relates to the factual acknowledgments that the defendant swore under oath during the plea that he had reviewed, then initialed each one of the factual acknowledgments, and then signed that he, again, understood and reviewed each one of the acknowledgments that he initialed as part of the special conditions of his plea, that when called to testify, if called to testify, that the specific factual acknowledgments within the plea agreement were true and accurate statements, and that would be the testimony that he would provide as it relates to his witness testimony during the trial of this case. So I would present to the court State's Exhibits 1 and 2, as well as a USB drive of the defendant's testimony on day 124, 125, 126, and I think 127, Your Honor, but all of the defendant's testimony can be found on State's Exhibit 3. As everyone is aware, Your Honor witnessed it and can take judicial notice of everything that occurred during the testimony in which Mr. Sledge did testify. And I believe the court during, I think it was day 125, helped direct the defendant to sections 4 and 5 of the plea agreement during the testimony for him to focus on and read, and to go one by one and acknowledge or disavow is the only word I could really think as to being no longer true, and testifying under oath that he was violating the special conditions of his probation, Your Honor. So this time I would tender State's Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 for the court.
All right, I'm not quite sure I understand what 3 is.
3 is a USB drive with all of the testimony of the defendant. If Your Honor wants to preview it or wants to be part of the record.
Is that from the official transcript?
Well, it's the YouTube link, the live stream of all of the.
Okay, I'll just take judicial notice of it. I mean, if you want to make an exhibit, that's fine, but I'm not going to be relying on that.
So-
Since, as you know, it's only the official transcript that is the official transcript anyway, but I was here and witnessed it, so I will take judicial notice of it.
Yes, I'm very much aware of that. The transcript obviously is not ready as we're still in the midst of the trial.
Right.
I didn't want to overwhelm the court reporter who has been doing nothing but probably working hardest out of everyone in the courtroom. So I knew Your Honor
All right.
either could take judicial notice
Thank
or
you.
rewatch them. Can I approach this?
You may. And can you try to use a mic, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can I, they go to the court reporter.
Nothing further from the state at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Wright,
Your Honor, may I remain seated or?
it's probably easy. You can. It's probably easier to hear you that way.
Okay, I think I'm on. Your Honor, if it'll please the court, I believe, and I have already sent to the court defendants 1 through 6. Defendants 1 through 5, I believe, were already, I think my emails between myself and Ms. Love came into evidence during our testimony.
Came into evidence in the trial of the defendants that are on trial right now.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
So those are sort of resubmissions
Okay.
of those, but I do think they're already before the court, or the court can potentially take judicial notice of that.
What is your exhibit 6? I think I
Well,
only got 5.
exhibit 6 is the one thing, and that's just a listing of my emails in December between myself
Oh, that's
and
this
Ms.
one
Love.
page?
Yes.
Okay, it didn't have an exhibit marker on it.
I'm sorry,
so
Judge.
that's fine.
And, so succinctly, I thought it best to submit these exhibits. When you look at exhibits 1,
And
2,
those are admitted for purposes of this record, which is the probation revocation matter.
Thank you, Judge. When you look at exhibits 1 and 2,
what you see going on is plea negotiations in this case started on December 27th between myself and Ms. Love. You can see it's in the evening hours, and that's one reason I wanted to make sure that the sort of cover page along with the attachment are part of these exhibits. At approximately 4:57 p.m. is when the email first comes in from Ms. Love. You see that a second one, defendants 2, comes in at 5:06 p.m. And at some point I respond. Those are the only 2 exhibits or the 2 drafts which occur on the 27th. However, it's important to note that when you see the response that I send to the email at 5:06, I send that response at 8:42. And I point out specific issues with the draft that need to be revised.
Right. Yeah,
Now,
and I recall we discussed this during the trial of this, the ongoing trial as well.
yes, Your Honor. And the point I won't belabor it is these revisions you actually see being put into the drafts. So by the time you see defendants 3 and defendants 4, they note that there's attachments updated to. You see that those very revisions that we requested are being put into the actual drafts. And ultimately, it was defendant's exhibit 4 that if you look on defendant 6, when the email comes in, it says, use this one. That is the agreement that we thought we were executing on the 28th. And remind you, on the 28th, we're in court. This isn't where I'm at my office. I can print it out, look at it, take it to the client like we did on the 27th. On the 28th.
On the 28th, both you and Mr. Sledge are in person in this courthouse, right?
Correct. So the emails, if you notice, I never respond because I'm here. I'm in person.
Right.
So we would get it and via phone, or if they would give me a draft, to take to him, I would literally go from the conference room back to the holding area. We would go through it, go over it. But the one that we thought was going to be the executed final was the same one that they said on defendants 4, use this one.
But are you testifying now, or are you just recalling for me the testimony from previously during this ongoing trial?
I am asking the court to take judicial notice.
I
because
will
testified
take judicial notice of what both you and Mr. Sledge testified to in the trial. I recall it.
Understood. So ultimately, the last thing that I think we mentioned in our testimony was where we did take issue with some things. We said he'll have a chance to answer the question and to explain.
The anticipation, ladies and
There was
gentlemen, the
a big
anticipation.
problem, and I noted in my testimony that number 8 on that version that got signed had been taken out, removed. All of a sudden it reappears and it's there. My client initialed it. Yes, it was tendered. But ultimately, here's the problem. My client has always said he does not know who's responsible for shooting the victim, who he never was a participant or heard about planning the murder of the victim. And therefore, number 8 was put into evidence by Ms. Love to the court when it was a knowing statement. She knew that statement was false. That is,
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. That may be your contention, but
well, we would contend to the court that where my actual email defendants 2 clearly denoted that.
it does not. That is up for debate what that denotes.
It is removed from all the drafts and then ends up back in.
That is true.
So.
But your response on your defendant's exhibit to item, what is then item number 4, does not definitively state anything like what you just said. He said he did not know. as we discussed at the time of the ongoing trial, could have been interpreted in several different ways. But I understand what you're saying.
And just so I
You maintain that the two of you both missed the fact that you signed, or your client signed a factual acknowledgement that included item number 8.
correct.
And then when Ms. Love read it out orally in the court, and Mr. Sledge, one by one, said, yes, I acknowledge that somehow that didn't occur to you at that point in time either. So I understand what the assertion is. Here's the thing. You seem to be focused almost wholly, if not wholly, on, well, maybe there was a mistake with regard to factual assertion number 8. The issue that I see is that the state has not limited their petition to revoke probation to, he contradicted or he refused to acknowledge during the trial that item number 8. It is the entirety of disavowing factual acknowledgments, etc. And what got disavowed under oath in this trial was far more than just item number 8. It was item number 3, item number 4, item number 5, item number 6, item number 7, item number 8, item number 9, item number 16, and then the part 5. Sentencing acknowledgments, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and the paragraph underneath asserting that he's read and that they're true and that he understands that he's had an opportunity to discuss it, and he voluntarily enters into it, et cetera, et cetera. So even if we entirely disregard item number 8 of the factual acknowledgments, there are still however many other ones that added up to that the state is still relying upon. And I don't see how you get around, and maybe you have a way to get around the rest of it, and I'm certainly willing to listen, but that one thing is sworn to in open court on December 28th of 2022, and then something diametrically opposite of that is sworn to under oath back on September 5th of this year.
I understand your concerns, Judge. One of the things that we traveled on after taking the plea was he would be able to explain his answers if he had issues.
Can I ask you a question about that? Is there anywhere in the guilty plea agreement in sentencing of your client in December of 2022 where you reserve that, where anybody, the state, the defense, or the court puts on the record that that's part of the understanding?
It is not in the written plea agreement, no.
All right.
However, in evaluating my client for the purpose of this hearing, I don't think the state is denying that that is something that it was understanding. It's not in the written plea agreement, but it was understood. And the other thing,
he's scraping and scrambling right now. He's scraping and scrambling.
When asked to make himself available, to meet with the state, to be prepared by the state, at all times would show up and do that. He was never provided or questioned it with any details such as, here, let's go over your plea agreement, these factual allegations, what questions may be asked. In other words, what you saw at trial was someone who was now, after what was that, December of 22, was now for the first time being drilled or asked questions rather as to the specifics of all the things that he had allocated, all the questions that were going to be asked. There was no preparation of him. So what you saw was probably frustration on his part at times, and shutting down at times on his part. But it was also part of the manifestation of what happens when a witness who's not a lawyer, who's not someone used to this, is getting questions fired at them. And at some point, I think the court can take note that he literally shut down. And some of what the court saw may be more of a manifestation of being overwhelmed as opposed to trying to purposely change or diametrically say something different than what ultimately he allocated initially. So in retrospect, wish
Judge is a former prosecutor. She is a
more
former
than general
prosecutor.
question actually prepped him like you would normally see a witness be prepared and prepped. That did not happen. So you saw a very raw witness recounting things that happened quite some time ago and did not necessarily say things consistent with what he said before. But it wasn't simply for a malicious intent or an intent to deceive. There were several factors, is all I'm indicating, that may well explain why it was so difficult during his testimony.
Dum, da, dum, dum.
All right. Anything else you want to present?
Your Honor, not at this time, no.
All right. Can the state give me a quick rundown of what this defendant's prior history is, including any prior probation violations? And then I guess I know that the probation officer is on here, so I'd probably need to at some point ask that officer if they would like to be heard as well.
Your Honor, we would defer to probation as it relates to, I know they have a full account of his history as
All
it
right.
relates to.
You know what?
probation.
I think I'm still on Zoom. Yeah. And what's the officer's name? Oh, it's my regular probation officer from long ago, whom I haven't seen in the last 2.5 months because I've been otherwise occupied.
Dum, da, dum, dum.
Hello, Judge Whitaker.
Hello, I'm trying to, oops. Okay, I'm trying to get myself on video. Ah, I know. So that it's not a disembodied voice. Hang on. All right. Hello, Officer Jolly.
Hello,
Good to see you.
Judge.
All right, what is probation's, can you give me a rundown of Mr. Sledge's criminal history? And I'm sure you heard the question I just asked, as well as any prior probation violations.
Well, currently, he'd used his first offender twice, one for DeKalb County, one for Fulton County.
Well, that's
The
lucky of
DeKalb,
him. Since you're only supposed to get to use it once. Okay.
yes, so the DeKalb County case, 04 CR 24799, that was theft by receiving stolen property, felon, and a obstruction of law enforcement officer, which was a misdemeanor. That was May 19th, 2005. I'm sorry. He used his first offender. The second case, 04 SC 23883, that's Fulton County. He used his first offender. That was possession of cocaine, as well as a possession with the intent to distribute cocaine. That was December 10th, 2004. The possession with intent to distribute cocaine in Fulton County was January 3rd, 2014. Again, both times, all three times, he used his first offender. The next case is 15 SC 138994. That is a Fulton County case. That is the gang participation, aggravated sex battery, attempted aggravated sex battery, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, criminal damage first degree, criminal damage second degree, and possession with the firearm by a convicted felon. That was January 10th, 2018.
All right, so given the fact that he had at that point a possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, does that indicate that at least one of those first offenders was not successfully completed?
One
Or are we
moment.
missing a felony?
One moment. That would be correct, Your Honor. In addition, of course, the current case that he is currently on probation on. As far as previous revocations,
So, hang on. So the 15 SC and then this 22 SC case, right? Is there anything
Correct.
between the two of them?
there's nothing in between the two of them, no.
Okay. Are you looking about prior revocations or prior violations?
Yes, at this present time, I don't see any prior revocations. There was one documentation. It's a little bit, I guess, I'm having a hard time understanding what they meant by it. One moment.
Judge, while she's pulling that up, there is a 13 SC 123423 out of Fulton County. It's a BGCSA, possession of cocaine with the intent to distribute, where the defendant received 5 years probation on January 7th, 2014, which would be the predicate or basis for the possession of a firearm by a convicted felon of the 15
I figured
SC.
there had to be something else there. Okay.
Sorry, I should have spoken sooner. I apologize.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, the only documentation that I have regarding a revocation just said revoke closed July 16, 2008. Doesn't really show any actual time served or any time being revoked or continued on probation back in 2008. So I'm unsure if that's an actual revocation that was completed.
Okay, well, yeah, it sounds like maybe it was revoked, but it was just wrapped up in something else is how I would take that. I don't know, but, or that that a violation was found, but we don't know what that was or anything like that. All right. So does probation have a recommendation in this case?
Due to the last minute notification of this probation revocation, I would leave that up to the courts to make that decision.
Okay. All right. Well, I find there to have been a violation as alleged, and again, even discounting the item number 8. What is the state's recommendation?
In full candor to the court, Your Honor, I'm going to leave it. The state is going to leave it in the full discretion of the court. Your Honor is fully aware of the conditions. Your Honor witnessed the testimony and how it affected the trial of the case, and I'm going to let Your Honor be the full steward of deciding what the penalty should be as it relates to all of the time that Mr. Sledge still has remaining on probation.
All right. Well, I know that at least I believe in the petition for revocation, the request is that the entire 30 years be revoked. Is that right?
It's not the request.
Or is, oh, you're just telling me that's what he has at this point, although it can't be all of it, right? I mean, he's been on probation for at least a couple of years, and did he serve it? What's left?
He just started on December 8th of 2023. I think he got credit for the time. I think he was in for 2 years, so he would have 26 and change or 25 and change.
I'm sorry, correct, 22.
My bad.
you the exact number. That would be 27 years, 7 months, and 8 days.
All right. All right, thank you. Anything else from either side?
No, Your Honor, nothing further from the state.
Your Honor, if it'll please the court, I understand the court's ruling that there is a violation. Ultimately, I guess to some degree, while it's not clearly akin to a substantive versus technical violation of probation, it is a non-violent, non-new offense kind of violation. And I would say if the court is going to violate my client, it would be more germane to treat it as a technical violation. We have expressed to the court different thoughts and reasons for the way the testimony came out. We don't know what effect, if any, one way good or one way bad, that has had. But in terms of his violation, I would ask the court treat it more as a technical. He has one grandchild on the way, one that just came early this year with Ms. Jaquila Freeman. So the point is, he has been staying out of the way. He's been complying with probation. I would ask the court to maybe consider if you want to put more restrictions and make his probation much more of a, not just something he's on, but something that now has more teeth to it because he's been working. He's been taking care of his family, he's staying out of trouble. He's turned that corner. And literally, it was always our hope he wouldn't have to come in and testify. And there was a reason the state allowed this plea to go forward so that he could step away. And in doing so, if you recall, you may have remember from his testimony, by no fault of his, he was a victim of a crime where he was shot multiple times and had to recover from that. So we would ask the court to consider some restrictions first, as opposed to custody. And if you do go with custody, we would ask to consider it as a technical type of violation, not a substantive violation in which you would be authorized to give him an even greater sentence. So we would leave it in the discretion of the court, but we're asking again for a non-custodial revocation punishment.
Okay, well, I don't view it as a technical violation or akin to a technical violation, considering the solemn oath that he took when he said that he understood every term within the plea agreement, factual acknowledgments, and sentencing acknowledgments, and understood and, in fact, orally answered that he understood when both asked by the prosecutor and the court at his plea hearing that a failure to abide by any of the terms would constitute a violation of the agreement, and he was notified that the entirety of his probation could be revoked. I do appreciate the fact that this particular violation is a non-violent violation. But I also appreciate the fact that some of the many reasons why this could have occurred include the fact that there is just not a proper regard for the judicial system and the seriousness with which an oath in court needs to be taken. I actually view this much more akin to perjury, frankly, than a technical violation. And the sentence for perjury is up to 10 years. I am going to revoke 5 years of Mr. Sledge's probation. And Mr. Sledge, I am sympathetic to the fact that you have generally stayed out of trouble, and I want to commend you for that. And I really hope that this revocation doesn't set you back. But we've got to take seriously the court system. So that's the sentence of the court. I find there to have been that violation. I'm revoking 5 years.
And he will be continued on probation, Your Honor?
And reinstate the balance.
Your
Thank
Honor,
you.
Might I ask, is it possible for my client to turn himself in to make arrangements?
I think y'all knew when you came in here that this was a strong possibility. So no, I'm sorry. All right, court is adjourned.
Good seeing you, Judge Whitaker.
Yes, thank you. Good to see you.
All right, bye.
The only person we could hear was Miss Jolly, so the only person we could hear was Miss Jolly.
Oh, wow.
Not on Zoom.
I don't know. The sound
Dolly
in this
had
courtroom
bad
is.
time. Go to the next room.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as I predicted, 5 years. I knew that he was in that ballpark of 5 years. I didn't think he was going to get his entire bond revoked, ladies and gentlemen. But 5 years is a lot of time. That's a lot of time. And he has to do all that time. He has to do all that time. 5 years. So those who are joining in, YSL defendant Antonio Sledge, aka Montauk, has just been sentenced to 5 years by Judge Paige Whitaker, and she akins this to perjury. Perjury. She said essentially he committed perjury under oath, and he breached the contract that he signed with the prosecution. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, and those who have accepted plea deals, that if you do not honor the contract that you signed with the prosecution, you too will be violated. So the judge essentially set the tone for the prosecution. And there's a reason why the prosecution didn't ask for any specific time and they want to leave it up to the judge. It's because they don't want this to be taken out against the prosecution. They want the judge to be the one that catches the smoke or the heat or the complaints or the air of the public. So, Montauk, Antonio Sledge, he essentially said, he said to the prosecution, it was a lot of pressure. I get it. And people say whatever they have to say to gain their freedom. And I think this was that type of situation. He said what he could say and signed the contract to gain his freedom. But I'm going to say this, ladies and gentlemen. His attorney should have advised him better. And that advice should have came before he got on that stand to give testimony. And this is no appeal on this. It's he does have a right to file a writ of a habeas corpus. He has up to 4 years. So he can file a writ of a habeas, if I'm correct. And he had up to 4 years. He still has time to do that. But he signed up for a 30-year plea. They knew what they were doing. It's always been my belief, once I saw the filing, that they should have waited to the conclusion of the trial, because we don't know what effect his testimony had on the jurors. No different than we know what testimony Detective Dennis had on the jurors. So they can put all the weight on him if they lose, or they could put the weight on Detective Dennis, Mr. Walter Murphy. I mean, they could put the weight on anyone. But he's now the lame duck. He is the one catching the smoke now. And Doug may ultimately be acquitted of all these charges, but he signed the contract. He took the plea deal. He signed a layaway plan of sorts, and they came to collect. They came to pick up their order on that layaway plan. He has to do 5 years. He has to do 5 years. And if I'm correct, I'm going to verify that. I'm going to verify that with the pro. As a matter of fact, let's stand by. Let me call an attorney and ask. Stand by. Stand by.
Has been forwarded to voice.
Okay. He might not be able to pick up.
Your call has been forwarded.
All right, guys. I'll try to get the answer for you shortly. But I believe he has to do the whole 5 years. I believe he had to do the whole 5 years. They really got him in a pickle right now. They really got him in a pickle. And this is why I believe he has to do the whole 5 years. But I wanted to confirm it with the Georgia attorney. I wanted to confirm it with a Georgia attorney. But yeah, pretty much he has to do the whole 5 years. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, this is definitely a warning to anyone who has signed a plea agreement with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Not the best way to end the week, this to start the weekend, but it is what it is. Don't do the crime, you can't do the time. Old quote from the movie Beretta. I don't know if you guys remember that. I'm pretty old, so. But yeah, that's sad. It's sad that they filed so early. But I knew they were coming for this. I knew they were coming for this. But ladies and gentlemen, until next time. Peace.